Maybe BuzzFeed is starting to wake up to the fact that most people probably don't like identity politics because no one likes to be disparaged for things they can't change. Although some people will just get in line and do whatever they're told, I'd be willing to bet that more people, on average, want to be criticized for things they can do better, and they want to be accepted for the things they're doing right. Most people probably don't feel good when you point to them and insult them based on something they can't change, be it too tall, too short, too fat. Well, they can change that, but a lot of people struggle with it. But race, more importantly, identity politics can get on people's nerves. Well, BuzzFeed puts together this survey. They say 51% of tech industry workers believe President Trump has a point about the media creating fake news. Now, why did I bring up identity politics? A new study by BuzzFeed News and Lucid surveyed tech workers on their attitudes toward the media. The results showed deep skepticism toward the press and concerns about the role of identity politics in coverage. Identity politics in coverage. It would seem like BuzzFeed, maybe they were willing to do this survey. It turned out that people in the tech industry don't like the media. They're concerned about fake news. Or maybe BuzzFeed is saying, we're laying off our staff. Some things aren't working. Maybe we should chill out on being identitarians. But let's read the story, because the story is about the media, not so much intersectional whatever. It's been a bruising few years for the media, for the world's biggest tech companies. One by one, many of the industry's most prominent firms and their leaders have come in for unprecedented levels of scrutiny from the press. Over disinformation during the 2016 election, over hate speech and targeted harassment, over the treatment of workers, over discriminatory advertising practices. Okay, we get it. Sustained critical coverage of Silicon Valley is both a natural consequence of these powerful companies' dominant and growing role in American life and a correction to what many observers feel was years of insufficiently rigorous reporting on the way their products and practices are reshaping contemporary society. This article is is already very annoying. Can you get to the point? 51% of tech industry professionals believe President Trump has a point when it comes to the media producing fake news. Now, I have to wonder, following the laughs at BuzzFeed, did they commission this study more so because they are losing money and had to lay people off? Or were they genuinely interested? I think maybe they published these findings when they realized, perhaps we're off-putting and targeting a microscopic fraction of the market, and thus we've stunted our growth. Perhaps, if we act like normal people, we might actually get more views. Is that what you found, BuzzFeed? Indeed, more than half of tech industry professionals somewhat agree or strongly agree with the statement that President Trump has a point when it comes to the media producing fake news. A separate survey conducted by BuzzFeed News of 1,000 Americans representing the national population found that only 42% somewhat or strongly agree with that statement. This finding puts in new context Tesla and SpaceX CEO's Elon Musk's much publicized desire to build a site for tracking journalists' credibility, a campaign that many dismissed as eccentric grandstanding, but which appears to arise from a pervasive sentiment in the industry, one that appears to be stronger than in the country at large. Older employees over 55, employees of larger tech companies, and employees of companies with over $1 billion in revenue were more likely to have a negative opinion of the media than younger employees 18 to 49, employees of smaller companies, and employees of companies with less than $1 billion in revenue. In addition, women in the tech industry are less likely to hold a positive opinion of the media than their male counterparts. Whoa, really? They're less likely to hold a positive opinion. Well, that's interesting. That I did not expect. Whoa, hold on. Women in tech are less likely to hold a positive opinion of the media. But hold on. The media is constantly railing about getting more women in STEM. Is it possible that the feminist, intersectional, identitarian narrative on how women really feel in the tech industry is wrong, and women in the tech industry don't like it and they're more likely to have a negative view? That I find particularly interesting. So then we have this 38% of tech industry professionals believe the media has become too feminist. That's actually a lot. Nearly 4 in 10 tech workers and nearly half of men. Wow. 45% surveyed believe the media has become too feminist. A separate survey conducted by BuzzFeed News found that the national percentage of people who believe the media has become too feminist is 39%. So that's about on par with, 39% from a national average believe the media is too feminist. Over the past several years, dozens of stories have focused on the relative dearth of women working in the industry, specifically in technical jobs and the difficulties faced by women who work in tech. And they say 41% of men in the tech industry agree the media has become too critical of white men. Similarly, more than a third of survey respondents and more than 4 in 10 male survey respondents believe the media is unfair to white men. Last year, former Google engineer James Damore sued his old employer, alleging a company-wide effort to increase the number of women and underrepresented racial minorities that discriminated against white male conservatives. Another source of tech worker skepticism toward the media comes from the perception that when it comes to covering their industry, members of the press often don't know what they're talking about. Gell-Mann amnesia effect. Only 50% of tech industry professionals surveyed think journalists are knowledgeable about the companies they report on, and only 43% believe the media has a strong understanding of technology itself. They don't. And there's, one of the greatest gifts of any strongman or dictator is a blind and willfully ignorant press that just parrots things from the government and the establishment without question. And that's what really blows my mind. Shouldn't journalists be relatively contrarian? When the government gives you a line and says this is true, shouldn't you say, okay, well, I don't believe you. Let me get evidence. When an industry claims this is what's happening, shouldn't they say, I don't believe you? Instead, what do we get? Hillary Clinton is accused of being sick. Many people in the alternative space on YouTube, many conservatives are saying she's got Parkinson's or something. What happens? No, it's not true. She's not sick. She just briefly had pneumonia. The campaign said so. Her administrator, her staff told us. Well, why would you just blindly believe them? And this is what the media is today. It's lazy. Look, if you publish fake news, and I mentioned this in a couple other videos, if you write a fake story or just don't fact check, you still make the money. Okay? So if they do their due diligence, if a news organization says, well, hold on, let's not publish these accusations until we can get 3 sources, then they're late to the party. They don't get the traffic. Even if they're right, they don't make the money. And whoever was first makes money no matter what. In fact, fake news there is such an incentive to produce fake news. And I'm sure BuzzFeed knows this, and I'm sure all the other digital outlets know this. And I love how they go, but why would anyone fake news? Why would any of these journalists produce fake news? Like someone was tweeting about it. I can't remember what happened. It's really, really simple. It really is. I think these survey results, it's actually too few people who realize what's going on. Why would a journalist fake a story? Well, for one, we had that reporter who was CNN's Journalist of the Year. He was a Der Spiegel maybe or Bild. I can't remember. I don't want to disparage the wrong news organization, but he was a German reporter who just made things up. Why? Because they'll put him on the front page. They'll pump his name recognition. He'll get more money. Why do the police believe Jussie Smollett staged a hate crime? To become a sympathetic figure so he could raise his brand value and make money. Marketing is everything. I often say this. You can have the greatest product in the world. You can be the greatest journalist in the world. And if no one has heard of you and no one reads your content, you're not going to make any money. You could have the crappiest product in the world, the worst, most nonsensical item ever. And if everyone's heard of it, you will still make money. Doesn't mean those people are going to be happy. So what happens? It is better for a business to produce fake news or sloppy reporting quickly than it is to actually be factually accurate. I'm surprised that only 50% of tech industry professionals think journalists are knowledgeable of the companies they report on. Only 50%? Have these people actually read the stories from these journalists? Listen, this is going to be true no matter what. Unless the journalist is someone who actually worked in the industry, then you got a bias problem. But the reality is somebody reporting on what you do is obviously going to know less than you because you are the expert, not them. They don't know what they're talking about. And again, it is better for them to be fast than correct. They say much of the recent critical reporting on tech companies has been enabled by corporate leaks. This topic strongly divided survey respondents. 52% of those surveyed somewhat agree or strongly agree that employees of tech companies should freely speak with the media. Meanwhile, 49% somewhat agree or strongly agree that employees of tech companies should not share information with the media. The statements were presented to respondents as 2 separate queries, which is why they add up to slightly more than 100%. Now, I will say something too. Here's a big challenge. You do these interviews, and often you don't know if they're going to set you up or lie about you. I've actually gotten to a point where I'm basically refusing almost all interview requests. I recently gave a statement to BuzzFeed News. They used like a tiny portion of it, and it didn't really make sense for the article they were writing, but sure, whatever. I was willing to do that. But for the most part, I'm going to avoid it. Because as I mentioned, there's literally no incentive to be honest. And one thing I often clarify when I do videos about fake media is how you can use the truth to lie, right? It sounds counterintuitive, but it's really simple. You may be familiar with the dihydrogen monoxide joke or hoax. Dihydrogen monoxide means water. What you can do is take something that's true, but frame it in a certain way that's alarming. Like, did you know that trucking companies use hydric acid to clean the gunk off of their engines? And it's in the bottled water you drink, or it's in the soda you drink, right? Hydric acid is water. The point is, people won't be familiar with the term. So what happens is, you're asked to give an interview about a tech subject. You can give this really great, long and nuanced answer, and they will pull out a snippet, put ... your sentence, ... before it, and it can make you look evil or awful. And they don't have to retract it, because as long as you really said it, it's fair game. One clue as to when tech workers might believe such leaks are justified came in the form of a question about China. Less than 1/3 of tech workers some would agree or strongly agree that US-based tech companies should operate in China. Dragonfly, Google's secret initiative to build a censored search engine for the Chinese market, stalled after its revelation by The Intercept, led to internal complaints. Meanwhile, 59% of tech workers some would agree or strongly agree that tech companies should work with the US government on military projects. Another source of the recent controversy in the industry, which also came to a head when reports exposed Google's Project Maven, a drone AI imaging contract with the Pentagon, which it subsequently did not renew. So, look, long story short, I'm not trying to drag BuzzFeed necessarily, but I am impressed they're willing to put out a somewhat self-critical article. Granted, they just surveyed people working in the tech industry. Well, no, but they did get national averages too. And I think ultimately what you'll find is that people who work in tech, I think they know what's going on. And I think this article is proof. The media is in a terrifyingly awful state. But, we'll leave it there. Stick around. I'm going to have another video up on my main channel at 4 p.m. And then I'll have more videos on this channel at 6 p.m. I will see you then.